Welcome to stage 19 of La Vuelta 22. With 3 days of racing to go, Remco Evenepoel is cruising to victory. The 22-year-old dominated his rivals on yesterday's summit finish, even putting a few seconds into Enric Mas. He is set to end Belgium's long Grand Tour drought, stretching back to Johan de Munk's victory at the Giro in 1978. Today's stage will be short and intense, finishing with a descent into Talavera de la Reina. We can expect to see the usual baroudeur and puncher sprinters in the thick of the action. Stage 19 is an outing of just 138 kilometres around Talavera de la Reina, with 2 climbs of the Puerto del Pilargo. The second one tops out with over 40k remaining before a long downhill sweep to the finish line. It's not an easy one to predict, and much will depend on the makeup of the day's breakaway. Well, unlike yesterday when over 40 riders went up the road, only 3 men got into today's breakaway. Trek-Segafredo quickly on the front of the peloton for Mads Pedersen. Leading the way then, Jonathan Caicedo from EF Education Easy Post, Brandon McNulty from UAE Team Emirates and Ander Okamika from Burgos BH. Lawson Craddock was keen to join them. The American, a contender for the most aggressive rider at this Vuelta, around 50 seconds back on the first climb. The riders hitting an average speed of 38 kilometres an hour despite going over the Pilargo. The 3 leaders had around 3 minutes in hand heading into the final 90 kilometres. Well, Craddock eventually gave up the chase and sat up, but with Trek-Segafredo still driving a hard pace, it wasn't looking good for the breakaway. Okamika, another man who could be voted the race's most aggressive rider, the Spaniard in his 5th breakaway of this Vuelta, and his legs are clearly feeling good. He was also on the attack for over 170 kilometres just 2 days ago. It was only a matter of time before the breakaway was brought back, with several other teams joining Trek-Segafredo at the front of the pack. The 3 leaders were finally caught a few kilometres into the final climb, with Bahrain victorious now setting the tempo. Would any of the GC favourites try to shake things up, or would it just be a question of which fast men could survive this climb? In the end, there were no big attacks. Bahrain victorious, continuing to set the tempo for Fred Wright and looking to drop some of the other sprinters. Pedersen and Mike Turnison were still there at the summit though, as a slightly reduced peloton swept into the descents. The road flattening out again on the approach to Talavera de la Reina, with around 50 riders still in this bunch. The speed hitting more than 70 kilometres an hour as Trek-Segafredo led them into the finish with Kenny Elissonde on the fronts. A couple of other teams moving up in the final kilometres, notably the Ineos Grenadiers and Jumbo-Visma. Pedersen though was kept in a perfect position, and if anyone wanted to catch him out, they would have to go from distance.
This is a big move by the Australian. Miles Scottson has jumped away from the front of the peloton. 3 hours and 18 minutes as Scottson tries. Fred Wright licks his lips on the wheel of Pedersen. Scottson still has it. The former Australian champion flat out with just a few metres, but Pedersen looking over. Pedersen now kicks. The green jersey looking for the hat-trick. Wright is on the wheel. So is Stannard up there as well. Pedersen, Wright, Fred Wright, Mads Pedersen, hat-trick for Trek-Segafredo. The green jersey wins again.
Mads Pedersen does it again, taking his 3rd stage victory of this Vuelta ahead of Fred Wright and Gianni Vermeersch. The Dane celebrating his 9th win of the season and his 4th at a Grand Tour, which is more than any other rider in the professional peloton. Well, Pedersen won't be competing at the World Championships in Australia. He prefers to head home and spend some time with his family, but he's certainly rounding out 2022 on a high note after more excellent work from his team, Trek-Segafredo. Pedersen taking stage 19 ahead of Wright, who has finished in the top 4 on 5 stages of this Vuelta without landing a victory. Vermeersch, Ben Turner and Turnison rounded out the top 5, with Miguel Ángel López sneaking into the top 10. It didn't turn out to be a GC day, which will have suited Evenepoel just fine. The Belgian leads Enric Mas by 2 minutes and 7 seconds before tomorrow's final showdown in the mountains.